What's up, guys? Welcome to another UFC Quick Picks here on the Mayo Media Network. We have UFC Vegas 87 this weekend. Rozenstruik versus Gaziev in the main event. 11 fights on the slate. Honestly, it's probably one of the craziest slates I've ever seen in daily fantasy MMA. We have like 8 of 11 fights are just non-competitive at all in terms of the betting line. We have a minus 1,000, minus 1,400, minus 900, minus 800, minus 500, etc. And there's not enough fights, and the pricing is set up in a certain way where you're going to have to play some of these punt underdogs. So it's a very, very unique card, very weird card. I would encourage you to be different if you're going to play it at all. As usual, I'm still going to give you my favorite cash game play, tournament play, salary play, and a matchup I like on the slate. But just know heading into it that it is a tough card for those reasons. As usual, please subscribe to the channel, like the video. Why don't you give me a spot where you're going to be unique? And unless you think people are going to steal it here in the YouTube comments, I'm curious where you think you're going to be unique, because that's what's going to help you get the job done, win that tournament on Saturday. We also have a big UFC 299 card next weekend, so the light is here at the end of the tunnel. Let's dive into my cash game play of the week. It's going to be Bernardo Sopai at 7.6K. All right, in cash games, of course, you can play any big favorite you want. Bernardo Sopai, I think, is the obvious cash game target below the mid-range at 7.6K. There's only a couple fighters on the slate with any win equity whatsoever. Bernardo Sopai is one of them. He's plus 113 to win at 7.6K, which is a screaming and necessary value, I think. He's going to be ultra popular in tournaments, and there's a lot of merit to not play him in tournaments or not play him as high as the field. But in cash games, I think you need to go with the value, the win equity on Sopai at 7.6K. He's a debuting fighter, as is Vinicius Oliveira. Oliveira's the much more aggressive finisher, but he's been knocked out a few times. Very questionable defense, likes to showboat, where Bernardo Sopai is more clean, calculated, consistent, defensively sound, and probably a little bit better of a round winner than Oliveira. So if you're playing him, the hope is that he can either test the defense of Oliveira or sort of just, I would say, in his defensive ways, be more sound throughout the fight, edge out rounds. Most importantly, though, it's the win equity from a DraftKings perspective at plus 113, plus 170 to win inside the distance. Very strong cash game target there at 7.6K. All right, next up, my tournament play of the week. How about Steve Erceg at 7.2K? I do think he could get some ownership, but I expect the chalk to be in that range right below with Mokaev, Vitor Petrino, Chris Duncan. It's really hard to avoid these fighters, and some of that will even sprinkle to Steve Erceg. But Erceg, I think, will be a little bit lower owned. His box score is not as strong, only 87 and 70 points scored in his 2 wins. He's still a very big favorite here at minus 438 against Matt Schnell, who Matt Schnell's a competent boxer, just doesn't have any durability. He's been knocked out cold several times. Even in wins, he's nearly been knocked out cold. Most recent loss, he was knocked down a couple times again, knocked out in the second round. He just does not take damage well. And so, although Erceg is a bit more boomer bust than you might like for a fighter priced at 9.2K, I do think he has early knockout upside. I think he's a good, well-rounded young talent, more physical, more powerful, more durable than Matt Schnell, and especially on the durability side, I'm just not sure Matt Schnell can take a punch. So there's some risks here with floor and if the fight gets extended, but I do think Erceg can win this fight by first round knockout. He's got a decent inside the distance line of minus 190. So, that's actually a great line. And I'm willing to take chances on him in tournaments, especially if he's lower owned than the group beside him. All right, my salary play of the week. I don't even know who to give out here. There's just not that many options. We already talked about Sopai. I think there's going to be a couple obvious high upside targets priced right below Sopai. One fighter I like more than the field, and maybe I should just give this out as the matchup, but I'll pick a different matchup, is Alex Perez at 7.1K, who is on a long layoff, has only fought once since 2020, and really there's a lot of red flags here. We just don't know if he's healthy. We don't know what form he's in. Mokaev's a really good young opponent, and I think if Mokaev wins, it comes from grappling success and probably an early finish. But Perez is like a title contender when he's on form. A very solid wrestler, a strong boxer. He's able to throw at high volume. He's able to kick the legs. And I think there's ways for him to test Mokaev, who's still inexperienced at the highest levels and has shown not inconsistency, but hasn't necessarily easily put away some of the poor competition he's faced in the UFC. So I really like Mokaev at 9.1K, but he'll be chalky. And Perez will provide some leverage there at 7.1K. Maybe we'll be able to neutralize Mokaev a bit on the ground, and potentially is the superior striker here, can kick the legs, can make Mokaev uncomfortable. So there's a good chance there's a loser on the optimal lineup this week. I like Perez at 7.1K for the salary savings, for the leverage against Mokaev, and just for his general class of skill, though there is a risk that he simply is not in form. And finally, my matchup of the week. Let's go with Christian Leroy Duncan versus Claudio Ribeiro. It's probably going to be another popular fight, but it's hard to avoid these ones. Duncan is the favorite at -317. Ribeiro plus 255 on DraftKings. Duncan's priced at 8.9K. Ribeiro 7.3K. And I think there's just a really good chance for this fight to end inside the distance. -400. I've been really low on Ribeiro throughout his UFC career because he just likes to wing hooks, and he's not like technical at all. He's not defensively sound at all. He gets hit hard, and both his UFC losses have been knockouts. And I think he's going to continue to lose by knockout in the UFC. Christian Duncan is a far superior technical striker here, and I think is a pretty decent chance to put Ribeiro away. At 8.9K, -160 to win inside the distance with early knockout upside. I think Christian Leroy Duncan's a really strong DraftKings play, though he will be popular. Ribeiro at 7.3K. I don't love him, but he's going to go out there and wing hooks and try and knock Duncan out early. And so a win for him probably comes by knockout early. He's plus 285 to win inside the distance. That's one of the better lines below the mid-range. Unsure how popular he will be. I do think he'll get some love, but this is a fight that I think is a pretty good chance to end by knockout one way or the other in the early rounds, and I think both sides can compete for the optimal lineup if that happens. I do strongly prefer the side of Duncan, but we need to save salary somewhere, and I think Ribeiro is another high upside option this week. All right, guys, that's it for this week's UFC Quick Picks. Thank you so much for the support. You can follow me on Twitter, Appley, TTP, dailyfanmma.com for all your DraftKings breakdowns needs. Little bit abbreviated this week, but we have a massive slate next week for UFC 299. Any other questions, hit me up on Twitter, join our free Discord, check out the premium podcast breakdowns, etc. if you want more content. Good luck. We'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.